All right, hello everybody, and welcome back to Witch on the Holy Night Mahoyo. Hello, dudes. Last time we had a fucking epic as hell spectacle of like probably the highest budget scenes I've ever seen in a visual novel ever of Aoko's attack against Flat Snark, helped by Soujirou, who was able to set basically the aiming reticule of her long-range magic cannon. I was like, oh, like, Jesus Louises Creases. Like, working together, they were able to completely destroy Flat Snark. And with that, going through that experience together, basically finally allowed Aoko to say, you know what? You're off the hook, boyo. And she also learned that, so far at least, Soujirou is not in love with her. Although, I wonder how much exactly Soujirou realizes what love is. I wonder if he understands his own feelings, honestly. Because it seems like he definitely likes her more than, more than a normal person would, just from how much he knows about her. That's just my stance right now. And basically, due to that quote-unquote misunderstanding, Aoko went back to tsundere mode and knocked him out and put him inside a Pokeball. And now I'm guessing that we're going to begin the romantic comedy portion, in which I think that Soujirou will probably live with her in the mansion. And all sorts of wacky hijinks will ensue. Let's get back into it. Like a dog. He was still in a deep sleep. Yep. It all seemed ablaze in a mad, fiery red. Unbearable idle thoughts, incessant obstinacy, melancholy sights, and gloomy, bittersweet talk. Fickle wickedness born of human interaction. Namely, the voice of a forsaken coexistence. This, however, was the scenery of a world far removed from that. If there were those praying this was a paradise, then there were also likely those lamenting it as the underworld. In a decade, or perhaps longer, this would all change. But for now, the autumn leaves remained yet untrampled by human souls. It was scenery he knew well. Life in the mountains was humble and modest. That's right, she lives in the far away from the rest of society. There were no conspicuous buildings among this wilderness he called home. They gathered and stockpiled only what they needed to survive, without pillaging the land. Serpentine trails could be seen woven through the fields, and the stone steps leading to the summit were obscured by the forest, only visible once upon them. The mountain inhabitants probably intended it that way. There was no sign of mankind's exploitation among the mountain landscape. He suddenly remembered that this was the season that he liked the most. Or rather, it suited him the most. There was much to be done to prepare for winter, but whenever he had a free moment, he would make his way toward the mountaintop. Gazing idly at the setting sun while breathing deep at the crisp autumn air was probably the second favorite of his daily joys. I wonder what his favorite is. I wonder. It relaxed him, the cold but comforting wind at dusk, and the way the sunset dyed the peaks of vibrant crimson. Not 2 months had passed since coming down from the mountains, and already it pained him that the memories had begun to fade. Someone once told him that memories fade every day. So the best you can... Oh, goddamn typos, seriously. So the best you can do is make as many new ones as possible. Recollections grew hazy. A new place to live meant the beginning of a new life. He wasn't sure if he was reluctant to let go of the scenery he cherished for so long, or if he'd merely been spoiled by it. Despite his new home in a city surrounded by tall buildings, he felt guilty for wanting those memories alone to remain clear in his mind. Yo, S-Walk in the stream. Either way, he had to make the best of a fresh start. Hello, Darnus. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, either that or the best one could do. Yeah, it feels like they couldn't decide between the two phrases. Really? It didn't originally have voice? This remake version didn't originally have voice?
What kind of man thinks more about where he came from than where he's going?
He contemplated.
そうか。これ夢だ。
Oh, this is a dream.
He tried to stop himself from indulging in uncharacteristic sentimentality. It wouldn't be a dream if it was easy to understand. The moment he realized he was dreaming, angular shadows began to rise from the autumn colors. There were concrete buildings, previously unknown and yet familiar to him at the same time. This was how his current life was washing away his memories. Struggle as he might, there was no stopping the degradation of human memory or impressions. It was merely a fact of life. By nature, humans lived in the present over the past. Eventually, even his most cherished memories would be swallowed up by the buildings. It was neither cruel nor heartless. If they were sure to disappear, then for now he would content himself with dreaming about the memories he could recall. Whether in the mountains or in the city, the days flew by. Yesterday's scenery was not the same as today's. And such. She had given him no time to grieve. Distant nostalgia was beautiful, but that made it fleeting.
土産入道じゃないんだぞ、青崎。
You're no Miyagi Nudo, Aozaki. I can't talk my way past you.
What is that exactly, I wonder? Huh. What does that mean? Is that like a mythological creature or something? A faint dizziness made him close his eyes. Without sight, the mountainous landscape vanished, but in its place a familiar voice could be heard. It was a booming voice that seemed to shake not only the mountainside he stood upon, but the entire mountain as well. And of course, Aoko reappeared, towering in the distance. I'm guessing this is what he can see from within the Pokeball. He must have been tired, he thought, diagnosing himself while trying to make out what she was saying. Fearing the vertigo would return if he reopened his eyes, he decided to keep them closed. It sounded like she was arguing with someone, though the tone was all he could make out. It wasn't violent, but certainly aggressive. Maybe she was picking a fight with another mountain across the way. He wouldn't put it past her. After all, she was a troublemaker who blew up the moon. He couldn't quite grasp the conversation. Though somehow, vaguely, he had the sense that his human rights were being largely ignored. It was deeply unsettling even for a dream. After several minutes, it seemed that the high-impact argument ended in Aoko's victory. Then suddenly the boisterous voice faded. Praying everything would be back to normal, he opened his eyes. Oh, he's still here. Shit, what the fuck is that, Friday the 13th? Damn, that is freaking creepy. He took a deep, slow breath. The scenery was a far cry from the nostalgic dreamscape he had just left, albeit not unpleasant either. Without a doubt, it was the amusement park. To him, this was his freshest memory. He recalled the house of mirrors that Aoko destroyed. This park was a flawless replica of reality, but he was the only one there. Without having to worry about anyone chasing him, he sat down on the wreckage of Kitsy's rides and looked up at the moon that should have been shot down. Wait, wasn't there supposed to be no full moon? Like, that's how they figured it out? The winter moon shone like a jewel. Or is he still inside the Pokeball? It was laid over the figure of the girl who tried to kill him. If a mage was a witch, then she definitely fit the bill.
I don't mind being killed.
Such an absurd thing to say. But it spilled out of him so naturally. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, he doesn't quite understand his own feelings.
いやでも
Well, maybe.
That had nothing to do with witches or magecraft. There was an echo in the gaps of his heart. If she had not spoken those words, then he would not have responded as he did. Ooh, wow. That is a very romantic phrase. In that moment, what had Aoko said to him? As he tried to remember, his deep slumber drew to an end. And with it, his chance to find the answers he so wished he could find. Yep, it looks like he might be in the mansion. Yep. Then, Soujirou woke up in an unfamiliar room, gasping. Not because the plush mattress he was on was softer than his apartment's cheap futon, or because everything from the carpet to the wallpaper looked expensive. Oh, SpaghettiOs. Bewildered, he tried to catch his breath. She was the cause of his surprise. The moment Soldier's eyes snapped open, there she was, the girl dressed in black sitting at his bedside. The silence was deafening. Still supine on the bed. Your guess is as good as mine. Soujirou gazed at her. His impulse was to sit up, but he refrained, thinking it might be rude to be... Okay, this is getting ridiculous. Seriously, the stupid fucking typos. My God! Thinking it might be rude to be staring at the person sitting next to him. What the fuck, man? Oh, so supine is just literally, it's a fancy way of saying laying on your back facing up. Thank you. She was just sitting there on a chair, dressed in black, modest clothes. Still, she projected an air that was anything but plain. Her monochrome outfit invoked indescribable elegance. Like a costume handmade just for her, from the finest fabrics. It was enough to inspire poetic sentiments even in Soujirou. The girl continued to sit, completely motionless. Without realizing it, Soujirou had stopped breathing. Genuine astonishment had him captivated. Yeah, I knew prone. Yeah, I've never heard supine before. Such beauty. It's the first time you've ever thought to use such a simple, plain expression to describe another human being. She was the daffodil in perfect bloom, with the ideal female form seen only in dreams. This quality was something to be cherished and admired in her. It was different from Aoko's blindingly radiant vitality. After all, the flame that burns twice as bright burns half as long. And there was no way this girl would be allowed such a happy ending. Oh wow, that's foreboding. Her life was a solitary fable of someone who left the world in exactly the same way they entered it. With her humanity stolen at birth, hers was an existence not of this world. The more beautiful something was, the more tragic its fate. Growing up in the mountains, this was not something Soujirou was taught, but something he learned from experience.
眠ってるみたいだ。
It looks like she's sleeping.
Soujirou turned his head, as though he was being lured in. He knew it was rude to stare, but he couldn't fight his instincts. Then...
Huh?
This time his heart actually skipped a beat. She was not asleep at all. Expressionless, she was merely watching over him while he recovered.
Oh.
Soujirou froze, unable to turn his head away or think of something clever to say. It was like staring into her eyes turned him to stone. Perhaps because of her delicate features, she looked somewhat younger than him. On the other hand, her tranquil expression made him feel like she was older. Jet black hair, just to her shoulders. Her large eyes were set like onyx stones, matching her hair. Devoid of emotion, her gaze stayed fixed on Soujirou. Even after their eyes met, she did not turn away. Hello, Atfis, and welcome to the stream. He wanted to speak, but could not find the words. It was not unlike a frog being stared down by a snake. Nevertheless, he just could not bring himself to say something. Additionally, no matter how carefree Soujirou might have been, he was painfully aware that this girl was as powerful as Aoko. Less talkative, to be sure, but still powerful. Objectively, this scene was not unlike that of someone nursing a bedridden stranger. He had no idea what she may have been thinking about, but it seemed to him that this harsh silence might last forever. All he could say for sure was that the quiet did not appear to bother her in the slightest. It was like some bizarre form of punishment.
これが青崎の仕込みなら手が込みすぎる。
If this is some kind of test from Ozaki, it sure is elaborate.
He thought, keeping his eyes on the girl. He felt like the moment he turned his head or blinked, she might stab him in his chest with a hidden blade. Yeah, that definitely seems like something like anyone would feel in that situation. And not because his imagination was running away with him. In the stifling silence, it was only natural that Soujirou would think back on what had happened in the amusement park, and it made him uneasy. But stronger than any anxiety was his fascination with the girl. Her slender frame and milky white skin, the chill of her guarded stare, the warmth of her lingering femininity. It was the mixture of these two latter qualities that was almost magical.
うん。
He stared at her for so long, he began to get the feeling they had met somewhere before. Sometime before the conflict at Kitsyland. Huh? Really? Huh? Interesting. He could not quite put his finger on it, but he was sure he had seen her previously. Hello, Blink. Welcome to the stream.
その今更だけど
I don't know if this is the right time to ask this, but
His voice shattered the frozen silence in the room. He almost felt sorry for making noise as he spoke out to her. They could not just very well sit and stare at each other forever. Though, he might have been the only one thinking they were staring. And perhaps she thought they were glaring at each other.
ここはどこで君は誰だかわかるかな
where am I? And who might you be?
She narrowed her eyes slightly, though apparently not out of offense. There was no response. Just as she was thinking it would have been better to keep quiet, she quietly raised her hand.
これあなたのでしょ
This is yours, is it not? Her voice was cold but melodic. A white piece of cloth was wrapped in her fingers. There was no need to tell him what it was. He was conscious enough to recognize his own possessions. Soujirou sat speechless as she tossed it to him. Picking it up, he wrapped it around his neck.
青子はそれを知っているの
Oh, oh, it's the fucking bandage. What is it? Oh, god damn it. Fuck. What is going on? Come on. come on. What the hell? Does Aoko know about that? He looked away in response to her blunt question, distracted by something unrelated. She called Aoko Azaki by her given name, which led him to believe that the mountain Aoko had argued with in his dream was actually the girl beside him.
さあ、どうだろ
I'm not sure.
As sincerely as he could, he answered without presumption. There are things that should be known, and things that need not be. There are also things that should be told, and other things that must not be. Soujirou was not exactly sure what that she was referring to. However,
う。でも、その方がいいとは思うよ。
But maybe it's better that way.
he smiled slightly at her question. Perhaps impressed by his response, the overwhelming pressure in the room dissipated noticeably. Or maybe she had been more nervous than he was the entire time, projecting the image that his room was her domain a tad too strongly. The tension faded. Soujirou tried to sit up and prop his arms beneath him. Now that they were talking, it seemed awkward to start lying down. However, his body felt strange as he tried to move, and it surprised him how difficult it was to sit up. It took everything he had just to raise his upper body to a sitting position.
あれ、洋服のまんまだ。
Huh? I'm still in my clothes.
As he threw the covers back, he tilted his head quizzically.
申し訳ない。こんないい布団なのに、これじゃ不釣り合いだ。というよりもったいない。
I'm sorry. It's such a nice bed, too. I shouldn't be in my clothes under the sheets. What a waste of a good bed.
She stared at him, not expecting him to complain about not wearing pajamas while sleeping. Somehow it appeared that he had done something to surprise her.
なんでだ。何もしてないぞ、俺。
But why? I didn't do anything.
Pouting a bit at the unwarranted curiosity, he turned to face her. Although he was still mostly laying down, it was at least a more dignified position.
それで、さっきの続きだけど。
So, any chance you'll tell me?
Indeed, he needed to find out where he was and who she was before anything else. Actually, the more he thought about what happened at the amusement park, the more he got a sinking feeling in his stomach. Perhaps finally getting through to her, she calmly moved her arm from behind her back when... Once again, they silently locked eyes. Thump, thump, thump. There was a startling sound of rapidly approaching footsteps. They both had a pretty good idea of who it was.
Alice, 約束!
Oh, she was about to murder his ass. Alice, you promised! Just as expected. Aoko burst through the door with a thunderous roar. She entered wearing her school uniform, her long hair flowing behind her. Her breathing was heavy and her forehead was wrinkled by a scowl, granting her a demonic appearance.
Alice!
Alice! This girl named Alice scowled slightly in response. She may have even let a sigh of disappointment slip out.
早かったわね、青子。
Aoko, home early, I see. Her calm voice was the polar opposite of Aoko's. Needless to say, her voice dripped with a brazen coldness.
そりゃあんたの性格は知り抜いてるからね。
That's because I knew you all too well.
こういう時の短絡思考はこの2年で経験済みよ。お行儀がいいようで面倒になったらあっさり投げ捨てるのがあんたでしょ。
Over the past 2 years, I've come to expect how quickly you jump to conclusions. You might act mild-mannered, but as soon as things don't go your way, the veil drops.
いやね、人聞きの悪い。
Oh dear, you make it sound so scandalous. Effortlessly, she brushed aside Aoko's jab. In doing so, Soujirou had the distinct impression that she no longer even realized he was in the room.
はっ、それで今日まで何度煮え湯を飲まされたことか。
Let the record show that I've lost count of how many times you've gone back on your word.
青子に譲ると言ったけど、よく考えると面倒だから私の方で処理しておいたわ。なんて言い訳、もう聞き飽きたっつーの。
I'm tired of hearing the same old story after the fact. I know I've said I would leave it to you, but after careful consideration, I decided to take care of it myself.
短気なのはそっちの自由だけど、それなら後の始末は相方に任せるのが最低限の筋ってもんじゃないの？
I may have come to terms with your short fuse, but the least you can do in return is to trust your partner to set things right, no?
そうね。そうでなければ共闘している意味がないわ。
You're right. We wouldn't be partners otherwise.
まあ、今後の方針を勝手に決めた人のセリフじゃないとは思うけど。
Though, you'll hardly want to talk after unilaterally deciding our plan from here on out.
それもきっちり型をつけたでしょ？
We've been over this already.
いい？勝ったのは私たちよ。逃げ切れば見逃してあげるって言ったのは誰？言動には責任を持ちなさい、アリス。
We won, okay? Besides, who was the one who said we should let him live if he escaped? Yet again, you've gone back on your word, Alice.
それとも何？もしかして一番気に食わないのはそのあたりの理由なわけ？
Oh, don't tell me. Next you'll be saying that's the reason you can't let sleeping dogs lie. Alice frowned slightly and fell silent. Her housemates seemed to have struck a nerve that Alice herself did not know was there.
とにかく
Anyway,
こいつの扱いはちゃんと目が覚めて本人の意思でどうするか決めるまで保留ってことで合意したでしょ？
we agreed to decide what to do with him when he wakes up after hearing him out. Right.
人の留守中に出し抜くのはやめてよね。
So stop trying to flip the script every time my back's turned.
それ、青子、学校はどうしたの？まだ正午になったばかり
It's
なの。
only noon. Speaking of which, aren't you supposed to be at school? It's noon already.
アリスのとこが今日で終わりって思い出して家庭の事情ってことで早退したのよ。期末試験前だってのにほんと何やってんだか。
I remembered you only had your school's end-term ceremony today, so I told them I had to leave early for personal reasons. This is so warped. I have finals coming up, for goodness sake! Aoko grumbled more to herself than anyone else in the room. I'm still shocked Alice even goes to school. I wonder why she even bothers. Then she locked eyes with Alice. Or more accurately, they glared daggers at each other. The room had become tense once again, and it felt like a fight could break out at any moment. With nowhere to escape, Soujirou had no choice but to sit and watch. But then, the electric silence that seemed like it would last forever suddenly broke about a minute later. Apparently, this sort of clash was an everyday occurrence.
私は今に行っているから、
I'll be in the drawing room.
彼に事情を説明してあげて。
Explain the circumstances to him. Alice stood up from the chair and made for the door. Watching her go, Soujirou cocked his head. In her hands what could only be described as
果物ナイフ
A fruit knife?
he had no other words to describe the tool she was clutching.
アリス、
I guess it's
あえ
a
て聞くけど
scalpel.
その手に持ってるの何？
Alice, I hate to ask, but what's in your hand? Aoko asked Alice as she walked past.
探検ね。どう見ても。
A dagger. What else? Alice answered expressionlessly before briskly walking out of the room.
おお
Soujirou thought it best not to think too deeply about the scene he had just witnessed. At any rate, the girl in black had withdrawn, and along with her the feeling of tension, leaving a bedridden Soujirou along with an Aoko still dressed for school. From Soujirou's perspective, this is the perfect chance to get answers to his ever-growing list of questions.
わけのわからないことだらけだ、青崎。
My head's spinning, Aozaki.
でしょうね。順序立てて説明してあげるから、ちょっと黙ってて。
I bet. I'll explain everything in order, so just shut up and listen. You want a lore dump, you got your lore dump.
顔の麻痺も取れてるし、呼吸も再開っと。これならもう安心かな。
I see the facial paralysis is gone, and your breathing is stabilized. It looks like you're through the worst of it. She nodded, satisfied, as she took a seat.
どう？調子は。
How do you feel?
なんかだるい。
A bit sluggish?
He answered meekly, dropping his shoulders. He opened and closed his left hand a few times, but moving his fingers felt slow and awkward. It was clear he was still in bad shape. Meanwhile, Aoko was blinking her eyes in wonder. Or was it admiration? Between Alice and Aoko, Soujirou did not know which of the girls was the harder to read.
体が重いのは当然よ。
Well, you're bound to feel a bit sluggish.
丸2日経ってるし、寝てるだけでも体は弱ってるだろうし。
Lying in bed for 2 days straight would make anyone feel weak.
でも、もう話せるくらい回復してるとは思わなかった。あんたって見かけより頑丈にできてるのね。
But I never thought you'd be well enough to speak. You're a lot tougher than you look.
ん ?2 日って
2 days?
あれからそれだけ経ってるの。学校には欠席届出しといたから、その点は安心して。
It's been 2 days. Don't worry about the school. I submitted a notice of absence.
ガンドの呪いもダンプティの呪いも、私とアリストで解除しといたから。
In the meantime, Alice and I dispelled the Gander curse and Dumpty poem. Soujirou nodded at the word curse as for calling it suddenly. It was all coming back to him now.
どうかした？そんな遠い目しちゃって。
What's wrong? You look troubled by something.
ああ、忘れてた。それで2日も寝込んでたのか。怖いもんだな、呪われるってことは。
I just forgot everything that really happened is all. Was I really asleep for 2 days? Getting cursed is pretty scary.
ほんと緊張感ないわね、あんた。ローのように眠ってたのが嘘みたいよ。下手すると一生あのまま石膏もどきだったかもしれないのに。
You're a school as a cucumber, aren't you? It's as if 2 days on death's door hasn't changed you in a bit. Do you realize you were one step away from becoming a vegetable for the rest of your life?
ちょっと待った。
Oh, that must be the
今
Humpty
すごい
Dumpty
こと言わ
thing.
なかったか。
But he seemed fine right after.
Wait just a second. Was it really that bad?
言ったけど聞かぬが花よ。
It was. And I guess you're proof that ignorance is bliss after all.
経緯はどうあれ後でアリスにお礼を言っときなさい。私じゃ解除できなかったんだから。
Very interesting, Alice. That she helped do this, but still almost tried to kill him. Anyway, what's done is done. Be sure to thank Alice later. I couldn't have lifted the curses without her help.
ひどい花もあったもんだ。
Sometimes bliss is overrated.
けどアリスっていうのはさっきの子か？遊園地でその俺たちを殺そうとした？
Oh, and yeah. You said the name Alice. Was that girl Alice? Was she the one who, tried to kill us at the amusement park?
Aoko replied that it was.
彼女ずっとそこに座ってたけど、ここは彼女の部屋なのか？
She was sitting by my side for ages. Is this her room or something?
Soujirou scanned the room again. He was not accustomed to sleeping on anything other than a futon, and the room looked especially foreign to him.
ここはただの客室。長いこと使ってなかったから埃だらけでしょ。
Nope. This is just a guest room. It hasn't been used in forever. Hence the dust over everything.
それよりアリスと何か話したの？あなた。
More importantly, what did you and Alice talk about?
Well,
いや、あれを会話というのはちょっと。
we didn't really talk so much as...
He brought his hand to his mouth and recalled the few words they exchanged. As Soujirou said, calling it a conversation would be a gross overstatement. And yet, thinking back on it, it seemed like they had talked for hours, which brought an uncomfortable smile to his face.
とはいえ、緊張は解けたと思うよ。
But it's fine. I'm no longer worried.
青崎がやってくるのがもう少し遅かったらよかったのに。
Although it would have been nice if you had come a little later, Azaki.
She would have fucking killed you, dude! if Aozaki had come like a little bit later. Aoko narrowed her eyes as innocent slip of the tongue. She knew Soujirou did not mean to treat her like a nuisance. But nevertheless, she found it hard to take the full brunt of the words said to her face. Even worse, she sensed she was getting used to his manner of speaking.
でも、だからなのかもね。相変わらず首の皮一枚の人生を送ってるわ、あなたって。
So that's why she... You really do have a knack for surviving by the skin of your teeth, don't you? He tilted his head, clearly confused.
だから、あんたはよっぽどアリス好みの対応をしたのよ。まだ生きてるってそういうこと。
I'm saying you did something to please Alice. That's the reason you're still alive.
Huh?
No matter how hard he tried, he could not grasp what she was getting at. He decided to change the subject to something else.
ところで、ここはどこなんだ？あの子に聞いても教えてくれなかったけど、青崎なら教えてくれるだろう。
By the way, where are we exactly? I asked the other girl, but she wouldn't tell me. You can tell me, right, Azaki?
ここは三崎町の幽霊屋敷よ。正確には久遠寺邸と言えばいいかしらね。
You are inside Misaki's infamous haunted house. But you can call it the Kwanji Estate.
さっきの子クオンジアリスの持ち家で私が住んでるところでもある。あの後あなたをここまで持ってきたんだけど覚えてないでしょ？
And that girl, that's Alice Kwanji. This is her mansion, which happens to be the place I currently call home. After the other night, I brought you here. You don't remember, do you? Something about the way she said that made him feel uncomfortable.
クオンジっていう名前は聞き覚えがあるような。そうだ、よく商店街でおじさんたちが話してた。なんでも偉いお金持ちだとかなんとか。
Kwanji. I've heard that name before. Hey, I know some old guys in the shopping district were talking about it. The Kwanjis are a rich and famous family or something.
それアリスの前ではご法度よ。穏便にここで暮らしたいならね。
Don't you dare say that in front of Alice. If you want to live here in peace, that is.
お
Confused yet again. Soujirou tilted his head for what seemed like the 100th time that day. And once again he had heard something to make him feel uneasy.
青崎、君今なんて言った
Aozaki. Did you just say...
しずきくん、私ね、あからさまな嘘を言う人と同じことを何度も言わせる人と察しの悪い人には容赦しないから。
Suzuki, I have very little patience for liars, idiots, and people that make me repeat myself.
そのあたり覚えておいてね。ここで平穏に暮らしたいなら。
Do your best to remember that if you want to enjoy your stay here. With her best smile, Aoko made her threatening proclamation. Needless to say, it caught Soujirou completely off guard.
気のせいならいいんだけど、君の言葉には俺がここに住むような響きが感じられる。
Yep. I must have misheard you because I could have sworn you said something about me living here.
He shot her an honest stare of disapproval. It was the best resistance he could muster, but it was not in the slightest effective against Aoko's overpowering, ruthless glare.
あなた、自分の立場は分かってる？
The quicker you understand the position you're in, the better it'll be for you.
You mean...
He considered her words carefully. He wanted to openly express his feelings on the matter, but instead he swallowed his words and shook his head. Despite his typical inability to read people's emotions, he at least seemed to understand the gravity of the situation. It appeared that he had finally realized that it was his carefree mood that typically got on Aoko's nerves.
ああ、そうだった。あんたに回りくどいこと言っても無駄だったのよね。
My mistake. I forgot there's no use beating around the bush with you.
いいわ。考える時間ぐらいあげたかったけど、時間もないし、はっきりと言ってあげる。
Fine, I want to give you time to think, but we're way past that, so I'll just come right out and say it.
いい？しずきくん。
Listen to me, Suzuki.
この度、あなたは私たちの監視下に置かれることになりました。しばらくはここで一緒に暮らしてもらいます。
As of now, you're being placed under our supervision. You will be living here together with us for the time being.
もちろん、生殺与奪の権利はこちらにあるという条件で。
Naturally, I reserve the right to decide whether you live or die.
What?
The blatant tyranny in her voice caused him to sputter. He wished that she would stop smiling in an attempt to make it seem any less outrageous.
一緒に住むって青崎とか
That's the part he's worried about.
Live together? With you?
It was not the faint expectation of living under the same roof without Aoko that had him flustered. Rather, he was genuinely concerned about his own safety. Regardless of how good-natured he was, It seemed he finally had come to grips with the fact that he just escaped death.
とんでもない。冬眠前の熊と一緒に暖を取るようなもんだ。
You can't be serious. That's like seeking warmth next to a bear before it goes into hibernation.
Oh my god, I think he's gonna get punched again. Aoko agreed, as blunt a comparison as it was.
たまには的確な比喩をするじゃない。
Once in a while you have some pretty accurate metaphors, you know?
あなたの言う通り、下手なことをしたり決まりを破ったりしたら、今度こそ息の根止めるからね。
But I'm glad you figured it out. Make a wrong move or break a rule, and I'll end you. For real this time.
それと、ここに住んでるのは私とアリスの2人だけよ。
Plus, it's just me and Alice you'll be living with.
あの子、私なんかより数倍常識ないから。気をつけないと死んじゃうぞ。
She has way less common sense than I do. So if you're not careful, you'll wind up dead by her hands too. Aoko was 100% serious. It was her sincerity that made it all the more believable.
いや。
No.
Obviously, there was no way the victim, Soujirou, could accept these terms.
待ってくれ。俺にはちっとも青崎がわからない。
Wait a minute. You're not making any sense, Aozaki!
監視するって言うけど、なんでそんな話になってるんだ？考えられる範囲、悪いこととかしてないし、そもそも俺を見張っても得なことなんて一個もないし、青崎はいろいろ間違ってる。
You say I'm under your supervision, but why is that necessary? If you think about it, I haven't even done anything wrong, so there's really no point in keeping an eye on me. This has to be a misunderstanding.
いや、それとも魔術師っていうのはみんな青崎みたいなのか。
Is it... Are all mages like you, Aozaki?
Arrogant and selfish were the words that the harmless boy's gaze seemed to imply. Aoko felt a headache coming on. To do his innate easygoing persona, Soujirou had not thought to question that Aoko being a mage was out of the ordinary.
だからあんたがそういう風に誰はばかることなく私たちのことを言いふらさないかを見張ってんじゃない、この常識なし。
That's the problem! We need to keep an eye on you so you don't go around saying things like that and blow our cover, you dunce! Aoko flew out of her chair. She had been doing her best to keep her cool, but it seemed her well of patience had finally run dry. Witnessing Aoko snap, Soujirou clapped his hands together.
そうか。青崎が俺を殺そうとしたのは魔術師であることを隠さなくちゃいけないからだったっけ。
Oh, now I get it. The reason you tried to kill me was because you have to hide the fact that you're a mage.
うん、それならわかる。監視するのは青崎の秘密のことで、俺の命云々はおまけみたいな。
My god! Wow! It took him a long time to figure this out.
Okay, if that's the case, then I get it. You're monitoring me to protect your secret. And not taking my life is your way of throwing me a bone.
そりゃ本質的に言えばそうだけど、身も蓋もないわね、その言い方。
I mean, those aren't the words I would use, but sure. It sounds a bit harsh when you put it that way.
けど、それはあまり意味がないんじゃないか？
But isn't this all a little unrealistic?
学校もあるし、バイトだってあるんだ。一日中この家から出ないわけにはいかないんだぞ。
I have school and work to go to. I can't stay locked up inside the house all day.
In an instant, Soujirou's objectivity had her stumped, leaving her at a loss for words. He honestly had no idea what position he was in. To believe that he had any sort of freedom at this point was shocking, to say the least.
いや、落ち着け私。話が早くなってある意味助かるし。
Just breathe, Aoko. If anything, this will speed things along. Aoko somehow managed to compose herself. As a matter of fact, she never had any intention of imprisoning him. Stripping him of his freedom and incarcerating him would go against their agreement anyway. Besides, if she was going to go that far, it would be easier just to kill him. To Aoko, letting him live meant showing a modicum of respect to Soujirou's way of life.
もしかしてこの部屋から出ちゃいけないのか俺。
You're not saying... Wait. Don't tell me I can't even leave this room!
A light bulb went on in his head as he blurted out what he was thinking. It appeared he had finally got the grim message. Aoko looked somewhat satisfied at his dismay.
大丈夫よ。監禁生活なんて面倒なことだけはしないから。
Relax. Locking you up would actually be way more trouble than it's worth.
あなたの自由はそれなりに考慮してあります。そのあたりのさじ加減はアリスの手腕に任せてあるから、あなたは心配しなくていいわ。
Your freedom was taken into consideration. To what degree you're free will be left to discretion of Alice and her abilities, so you won't have to worry about that. A gloomy look fell over Soujirou's face as he found his concern growing by the second.
いい？あなたの処遇はこの家に住むことを前提にした監視で、それも解決策が見つかるまでの期間限定。
Alright, look. Sparing your life is based on the premise that you will live in this house under supervision, and that's only until a more permanent solution is found.
何でもいいから目撃者を殺すなんてことより、こっちの方がよっぽど穏便でしょ？
It's a lot more amicable than just disposing of the witness, don't you think?
だいたいこれは私とあなたとの約束なんだから、いちいち文句言わないでよね。ただでさえアリスとの冷戦が続いてて頭痛いんだから。
At any rate, this is my way of keeping our promise, so no complaining. The Cold War I'm waging with Alice is enough of a headache already. She sighed as she stared Soujirou down as he lay on the bed.
けど勘違いはしないで。
But make no mistake.
ここじゃあんたの地位は最下層のさらに下。番犬より下なんだから。あんたの生殺与奪はあの夜から私が握ってるんだから。
We're
あん
fucking...
たは私に所有されてるようなもんなの。
We're doing it! Your status here is the lowest of the low, even lower than a dog's. Since that night, I'm going to decide whether you live or die, which means you belong to me now.
さあ、これで自分の立場、分かった？
Is that clear enough for you? Ooh, damn. We're doing it. Oh boy. As Aoko finished her declaration, Soujirou suddenly looked up at the ceiling so she would not notice his reaction. He meant no offense to Aoko, but he had to hide the fact that he fundamentally disagreed with her analogy. In Soujirou's opinion, it was disrespectful to both dogs and humans to call him lower than a dog. A more accurate analogy of their power dynamic would be that of a rabbit and a wild boar, hence why he chose not to voice this opinion. Unlike his apartment, the ceiling was decorated with ornate patterns. Putting aside how he would be treated here, in terms of lodging, it was a definite upgrade. Maybe it would not be all that bad. Soujirou nodded slowly, as if to persuade himself. And...
とりあえず、命は助けてあげるから。
For the time being, I've decided to let you live. That is what she had told him, not 2 days ago.
あまり納得したくないけど、自分の立場は分かったよ。うん。確かにそんな約束だった。いろいろと言いたいことはあるけど、それは認めるしかない。
While I don't really accept what you're saying, I understand my position. I remember what you promised me now. There are lots of things I could disagree with, but I admit you did promise me at least that.
だけど、君たちと一緒に住めっていうのは本気なのか？青崎は細かいことは気にしないとしても、 さっきの子は嫌がりそうだし、俺だって少しは。
Are you really serious about me living with the two of you? I know you're pretty easygoing, but that girl seems pretty against it, and I'm not exactly.
At that point, he zipped his lips. Ako's eyes were tinged with bloodlust.
あら、しずきくんはご不満？
Oh, please excuse me. I'm sorry to hear that you're dissatisfied with the arrangement. Her contrived smile, so obviously forced, struck despair into Soujirou's heart. Come to think of it, he vaguely recalled her warning to him to not make her repeat herself. Furthermore, as a practical matter, Soujirou Suzuki's life was now in the hands of Aoko Ozaki. It would be unwise to anger her further, he told himself as if speaking to a third person.
いや、別に。だってそれ以外ないんだろ。
Not at all. I mean, what choice do I have anyway?
None, Aoko said with a firm nod of her head. Soujirou slumped his shoulders in surrender. Hello, Bast. Welcome to the stream.
うん。青崎の言い分は分かった。
Alright. I understand you now, Ozaki.
ただ、一応聞いておきたいんだけど、俺の人権はどこに行ってしまったんだろう。
Just let me ask you this one thing. Do I have any human rights?
バカね。そんな形のないものなんて初めからあるわけないでしょ。つまんないこと言わないでよ。
Poor little Suzuki. You never had any in the first place. Now stop wasting my time with stupid questions. Soujirou reflected. Damn. Ouch. Ouch. Wowzers. Soujirou reflected upon her answer, now feeling like his question was indeed stupid. He should have already known the answer before he asked.
ああ、だと思った。そんな気はしてたんだ。目が覚める前から。
That's what I thought. I had a feeling this was gonna happen even before waking up.
Lots of practice, Bastic. Lots of practice. You'll see I wasn't really good at it at all back in the days when I started back with Umineko.
ん？
His muttering provoked a dubious stare from Aoko, before she quickly retracted it. If she questioned every little thing you said, they would be there until sundown. Also probably because my voice isn't exactly the highest voice in the world naturally, so I guess that's why I'm able to do it.
"とにかく納得いったみたいね。
Well, as long as you understand.
じゃあ次。いよいよ本題。今に移動するわよ。説明しなくちゃいけないことが山ほどあるんだから。
Now, we need to get down to brass tacks. Let's move to the drawing room. I have a ton of explaining to do.
で、一人で立てる？
Can you stand on your own?
さっきから手を動かしてたから血は巡ってる。歩くぐらいならいけそうだ。
Nope, yeah, no, I'm not using a voice changer or anything. Hello, Lestat, welcome to the stream.
I was able to move my hands earlier, so blood is at least flowing. I should be able to walk.
そう、なら問題ないわね。
Good, you'll be fine then. With that, she turned her back and walked away from him. He had seen this bold form of hers many times before. Instantly, the memories flashed back to him like lightning.
そうだった。青崎はこういうやつだった。
I remember now. This is the Ozaki I know.
Without knowing it, he cracked a smile. He was so lost that he did not know his left from his right. But recalling this alone was enough to go. I swear, even if he says he's not, I think he doesn't even understand his own feelings. I think he is in love with her. He just does not realize it. The Aoko he knew was different from the one in the House of Mirrors. She was not that brooding girl he saw there. He felt a pang of nostalgia. The Aoko he knew was brisk in movement and faltering in gaze, just like this one. She was the same as when he first met her, moody, yet overflowing with confidence, in her element.
ほら、急いだ急いだ。
Let's go! Let's go! Chop chop!
アリスがさっきから居間でお待ちかねよ。
Alice is waiting for us in the drawing room. She was already outside the door, standing in the chilly corridor.
寝たきりの辛さを知らないだろう、青崎は。
You must not know what it's like to be bedridden, Ozaki.
Grunting and groaning, Soujirou eventually got to his feet. His body, heavy and stiff while he was lying down, cried out in pain as he tried to stand and walk. Every step sent shooting pains through his bones. Despite this, he put on a calm face and made his way toward Aoko. Typically, he was quick not to pay any mind to life's little struggles. But these pains, he needed to force himself to consciously ignore them. In other words, he was displaying false bravado, an uncharacteristic reaction for someone who never suppressed their true feelings.
驚いた。あんた本当にタフね。
Amazing. You really are tough, huh?
ありがとう。けど心は弱いんだ。
Thanks. It's just my heart that's fragile.
Does he have a bad heart? Or is he talking metaphorically?
参考までに心に留めておくわ。できるだけ優しく扱えるようにね。
Oh yeah? I'll just keep that in mind, try not to hurt your precious feelings. Naturally, her voice was devoid of any true empathy. She turned away from the once more dejected Soujirou and began walking briskly down the corridor. Oh, and just then she stopped, feet snapped together, as if something had popped into her head. And just as if she was remembering something she had forgotten, in a completely trivial way.
それじゃあ行くわよ。ついてきて、宗十郎。
Ooh. Calling him by his first name. Follow me, Soujirou. She gallantly turned back the way she was heading, the words sounding so natural as she spoke them. Ooh, that's gonna knock him out his socks. Aoko did not see the look in Soujirou's eyes as he heard her words. For though she worked in the arcane, Yep. I called it. The spell Aoko had woven was apparent to everyone but her. Is this story like the fucking... There's like a meme that says like there's like a meme image that is like with a guy lying down and a girl like putting a candle on him. It's like me, and then on the girl the image is like my witch wife doing whatever the fuck she wants. That's the total vibe I'm getting right here. After blinking his eyes as if blinded by something, Soujirou casually nodded and followed behind her. The sheer size of the interior was daunting. The 3 floors of this mansion contain more rooms than Soujirou's entire apartment building. Except their size was excessive. Hello, Jirou, welcome to the stream. Here, the mansion's rooms seem too numerous for so few inhabitants. Its lavish carpeted halls cold and dreary. The guest room that Soujirou had been sleeping in was on the 2nd floor of the east wing. A staircase leading down to the 1st floor was at the end of the corridor, at the center of the mansion. Winter sunlight beamed through the windows, which only made the empty corridor appear even lonelier. Center of the mansion was topped by a vaulted skylight overlooking the 1st floor. The staircase, connecting the 1st and 2nd floors, lined its walls. I love this mansion tour music. Another staircase at the other end of the 2nd floor. 2nd floor corridor presumably led to an attic. Or storeroom of sorts on the 3rd floor. Paying no mind to Soujirou's gawking, Aoko descended the stairs with familiar steps. The foyer was a place of white and wood grain. Its hardwood floors shone brightly under the sunlight coming in from the ceiling, and the tall white walls were spotless and brawny. There was a staircase leading to the 2nd floor, and a long, unused fireplace. A neglected telephone sat on a table, opposite a solemn grandfather clock. It was more like an old castle than a mansion. Aoko shot Soujirou a callous stare, who stood captivated by the otherworldly scenery.
今はこっちよ。ぼさっとしない。
Hey! Snap out of it! The drawing room's this way. She grabbed the knob of the door next to the stairs. There were 4 doors to the foyer, and the easternmost as you entered the house led to the drawing room. The door on the opposite side of the foyer led to the mansion's west wing. To the south was the entrance. On the north side was one more door next to the fireplace. Tucked underneath the stairs, this door connected to a bathroom, unbeknownst to Soujirou. Oh, I see. Well, that's good to know. Due to the lack of windows, the first floor's corridors were not well lit. The second floor was a seldom attended infirmary, and the foyer a stairwell in some foreign castle. And the first floor corridor was a windowless labyrinth, not unlike the corridors of a hotel. Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. And this is like completely alien to him, who grew up like, not just like rural would be, I think, putting it way too generous. Basically, it seems where he grew up, because like he did not grow up in a rural area. He grew up literally away from civilization. It feels like. Although it had not been long since Soujirou came to the city, and I bet there's a reason for that. I bet that there's a legitimate reason for that. Although it had not been long since Soujirou came to the city, even he could feel this place was out of the ordinary. Seeing as he was going to be stuck here for the rest of the foreseeable future, he found it hard to get excited about living in a haunted house. You saw welcome to the stream.
そこが今で奥が厨房ね。簡単な料理ぐらいはできるようになってるから。
So that's the drawing room, and a little further down is the kitchen. It's fine for cooking simple meals.
今の隣にはサンルームがあるんだけど、ここが食卓の代わり。ってそんなの後でいっか。
Here, next to the drawing room, is the sunroom, which we use as a dining room, but we'll get to that later. Aoko said, reaching for a door along the dim corridor. However, she paused before turning the knob. She flashed Soujirou a meaningful glance, which she quickly withdrew. Then, without further ado, she opened the door.
お待たせ。承諾したわよ、あいつ。
Sorry for the wait. He's on board, she said to Alice as she entered the drawing room. After hesitating for a moment, Soujirou entered after her. Compared to the corridor, the drawing room was unexpectedly modern. I love it. This place is so fancy schmancy. I love it. That TV is nostalgic as hell for a millennial such as me. I remember my parents had a TV like that. Like 30-inch was considered gigantic back in the day. Those TVs that weighed like 500 fucking tons. The carpeted floor, leather sofas, and large 30-inch television were more what Soujirou had come to expect in a normal home. In this family-oriented room, a girl far removed from said setting sat quietly on the sofa. Aoko sat on the sofa across from the girl in all black. This gave Soujirou two seating options. Next to Aoko Azaki, or next to Alice Kanji. Decide your fate! It's your future, Soujirou! After about 2 seconds of deliberation, he decided to stand by the wall, as neither option appealed. Aoko and Alice were facing each other across the coffee table. The clean, perfectly level table somehow added to the austere atmosphere.
当事者も認めたことだし、これで何の問題もないわね、アリス。
And since he agreed, you shouldn't have any objections, right, Alice? Alice gave one deep nod in response to her known question. Hello, Mirage, welcome to the stream. From his position against the wall, they looked as though they were clearing up some niggling grievance. Soujirou got the feeling that the two did not entirely see eye to eye concerning what to do with him.
そうね。原因も究明しないといけないし。
I suppose not. But we still need to investigate the cause. She cast a sideways look at Soujirou with those darkly shaded eyes of hers. By the way, if I were to continue this series, what would be the next game to play? Would it be the Fate remake or Tsukihime remake? I'm just curious. Her voice shared the same cold indifference, making it abundantly clear that she had no intention of accepting him as a housemate.
けれど、あなたはそれでいいの？
And you're fine with this?
遊園地でのことを忘れてはいないでしょ？
Hello, Dr. Philidel, welcome to the stream. I do hope you haven't forgotten about what happened at the amusement park. Alice's voice was a mixture of judgment and scrutiny. She was aware that from an outsider's perspective, she and Aoko appeared dangerous. She wanted to know if Soujirou was up to the challenge of living with such people.
そりゃ夢だと思い込みたいけど、ちゃんと覚えてるし、できるだけ無事に済ませるにはこれが一番無難そうだ。
I wish it had all been a bad dream. But I remember it perfectly.
Above all else, it was the only way they would let him live. Alice responded apathetically, with a non-committal murmur. Tsukihime is half finished? Really? She silently placed a small object on the table with a clink. She pulled her pale fingers away from a small glass bottle. The glass, more pale blue than transparent, was enough to signify its high quality. I see. So the remake, they split it into multiple parts. I see. With a crane-like motion, she removed the stopper. Well, I won't play it directly after this, but it's interesting to think about. Thank you. Even though this was the first time he had seen such a thing, something about it made him uneasy. Was it that it made him sad, or? Aoko's standoffish behavior only added to his concern. Alice once again fixed her eyes on Soujirou, who was bracing himself for the worst. The glint in her eyes was bewitching. Like for Fate, I do in general know the plot, but only from an anime I saw maybe almost 20 years ago. And and I am aware that like the vast majority of the visual novel was unadapted, because I have not yet seen like the newer Fate animes, like either the Rin arc or the Sakura arc. Yeah. The glint in her eyes was bewitching. With not a single emotion apparent on her face, she called his name.
しずきくん
Suzuki.
はい。
Ah! Back inside the Pokeball.
Yeah.
The moment he responded to her whispered call, his surroundings began to transform. The air grew thick, so thick it took on a color and shape. The density he discovered that coiled around his skin made it seem like the air had become words. I have no intention of doing fake Grand Order, by the way, just to say straight up, that is a mountain I'm not going to climb. I would absolutely play the remake of, I know it's an alternate universe, of whatchamacallit, Fate Extra. That's definitely something I would love to play. Opening his mouth to gasp for air, the words invaded his lungs. Ineffectively, instinctively, he covered his mouth with his right hand and clutched his chest with his left, both hands appearing clear as mud. Even the thickest of mountain fogs never seized his senses like this. If he had to come up with an analogy, no words could describe it, but it was like he was standing on the pages of a newspaper. So cool. So cool. The first sense to adjust to this new sensation was his hearing. Then his breathing stabilized, yet the feeling of suffocation remained. There was nothing restraining him that he could see, but he felt an intense claustrophobia. Before it even felt shock at the sudden change, he reached out in an attempt to find an escape. But his outstretched hands found only emptiness. Ooh. It seemed contradictory that a place with no walls and a wide view could feel so cramped. Spirited away in a dense fog. Back in the mountains, such superstitions never seemed real to him. Until now. And then, he finally noticed, surprised to beat all surprises. The drawing room had not changed into another world at all. He knew this for certain because he could still see the room just through the fog. As well as the two girls, Aoko Kawasaki and Alice Kwanji, watching him closely. It was simply a problem of perspective. The floor was dark and perfectly flat. Looking up, the two of them there stood. The two girls were like two impossibly gargantuan clouds, coldly looking down on him. Remembering the structure of the room and layout of the furniture, Soujirou's unsurpassed candor finally grasped his predicament. The parade at the amusement park had nothing on this. Somehow, he was inside the glass bottle that Alice Kwanji only produced moments ago.
図らずも
What was unexpected? Isn't that what you thought would happen? Well, that was unexpected. Marveling at Alice's wickedness, Aoko glanced at the small bottle on the table. Like that's what the bottle is supposed to do.
2日前の夜と同じ状況になったわね。今回そいつは起きてるけど。
It's the same as 2 nights ago. Only this time he's awake. Aoko calmly mused. Alice, however, was not looking down at the bottle, missing a period here. Instead, her eyes were locked on Aoko.
意外ね。青子は怒ると思ってたのに。
I'm surprised. I thought you'd be upset.
いや、私も似たようなこと考えてたから。
Not really. I thought about doing something similar.
少しは魔術ってもんを思い知らせておかないと困るでしょ。
He needed to be taught a little lesson about magecraft anyway.
アリスがやってくれるなら止めはしないし、怒りもしないわ。
You're saving me the trouble, to tell the truth. I'm not even mad.
ま、こっちが予定していたものより何倍もめちゃくちゃだけど。
Though this is pretty hardcore, even for me. It's lucky for y'all that Soujirou has the battler disease, and he's down bad. Oh my god. Even if he doesn't realize it himself. Aoko did not take her eyes off the bottle as she spoke. Although she did her best to feign indifference toward Alice's magecraft, she could not completely hide her curiosity. The figure inside the bottle, likely having caught on to what was happening, tried various things like flailing its arms and sprinting around. The surface of the bottle was cloudy, so it was hard to make out exactly what was happening inside.
ところで、これって私にくれたやつとは別物みたいだけど。
By the way, this looks totally different from the one you gave me.
あれより作りは細かいわ。
This one took more time to create.
青子にあげたのは使い捨ての隔離するだけのものよ。これはお互いの声も聞こえるから。
The one I gave you was disposable, and only made to isolate the subject. This one allowed for two-way communication.
へえ。けど、その割には何の反応もないわね。
Really? He doesn't seem to be replying, though.
青子には聞こえないだけよ。
You just can't hear him. Alice said calmly, finally dropping her gaze to the bottle. Just then, the figure inside stopped moving. It appeared only Alice had a connection to the world inside the bottle.
なんだ、術者にしか特典はないんだ。
Lame. Only the caster gets to have fun. Aoko sighed, losing interest. Ignoring Aoko, Alice opened her mouth as if to speak to someone not altogether there.
どう？これでも一番無難だと思う？
How about now? Still think this is the safest option? Oh no, I definitely felt like starting with this game was the best. The person she was talking to was none other than the one inside the bottle. She was, of course, referring to Soujirou's earlier comment. It was her way of testing the boy who implied that living in the mansion seemed safe.
いきなり小瓶に閉じ込めて聞き返すあたり容赦ないというか、この子の洋館への執着も問題よね。
Suddenly trapping him in a bottle and interrogating him was pretty ruthless, but even more worrisome is her attachment to this mansion. Then again, considering Aoko had invited the witness to her house of mirrors for the fight to the death, she was in no position to criticize. She would make sure Alice did not let her emotions get the best of her, but for now she was content to observe as a bystander. After a moment, Alice's expression changed. She must have gotten an answer to her question. Without any way to tell what the situation was inside the bottle, Aoko had no idea what that answer was, however. Only that Alice's face was the one she had made when the boy she was talking to said what she wanted to hear.
私が言えることでもないけど。
I suppose I'm not one to talk, but... For an instant, she glanced at Aoko. Slightly shaking her head, she reached for the small bottle.
ほんと、物好きね、しずきくんは。
This Suzuki is quite the strange one. She said his name with what seemed like a forlorn frown. As soon as she removed the stopper, the air in the room quivered. The boy, who had been casting a shadow on the wall until a minute ago, now leaned against it for support again. Aoko turned around to face Soujirou right behind her, resting her elbow over the back of the sofa.
How do you feel?
How do you feel?
見ての通り、めちゃくちゃだ。
What does it look like? Messed up.
Soujirou answered with unusual hostility. Yeah, for sure. That is very unusual for him. Aoko was reminded of his strange behavior, as she was sure that he would be scared or shocked, not angry.
夢で似たようなものを見てなかったら、今頃心臓が止まってたところだ。そこはついてたと思う。
If I hadn't already seen something similar in a dream, my heart probably would have stopped. I'm lucky it didn't.
信じられないのは、なんでいちいち実践するかってことだ。魔術は怖いものなんだって言えば済むだろうに。
You could have just...
物騒な青崎の声、聞こえてたぞ。
You could have just said it was scary and left it at that. Plus, I could hear the threatening things you said, Aozaki.
物騒で悪うございました。
My sincerest apologies.
けど、言葉じゃなくてきちんと実感してもらいたかったのは本当よ。
But it is true that I want you to feel it for yourself.
How? 魔術ってもんを甘く見てたでしょ、宗十郎。
At least now you'll take magecraft seriously, won't you, Soujirou? As much as he hated to admit it, she was right. Basically, just a quick way of saying how dangerous the things that they're dealing with actually are. Though, it was not that he had taken magecraft lightly, but merely that he couldn't understand
け
it.
ど、実感うんぬん言われても困る。
I still don't really get it, though. Even after that experience.
これまでの青崎の無茶っぷりと、今のわけのわからなさはとても比べられない。
Compared to the crazy stuff I've seen you do, Aozaki, whatever the heck just happened to me was hardly unbelievable.
そりゃそう よ。アリスと比べないでよね。
It's not! Alice and I are totally different.
アリスの魔術は私たちの中でもデタラメで、もう言葉にできないぐらい最悪なんだって言ったでしょ。
I already told you. Even in our world, her magecraft is considered over the top and unspeakably horrible.
失礼ね。人命を脅かすという点なら青子の方がよっぽどひどいと思うけど。
How rude. When it comes to which of us is more of a threat to human life, I think you're far more dangerous than me.
それよりあなた、本当に彼を殺す気はあったの？
That's besides the point. I'm starting to harbor doubts about you even wanting to kill him in the first place.
一体どんな追い詰め方をすれば青崎なら多分安全なんて言葉が返ってくるのかしらね。
You must have been pretty soft on him for him to say he believes that he's safe here.
そんなのあったに決まってるでしょ。
Well, of course I want to kill him! Look at her blushing. Oh my god!
こいつがなんて言ったか知らないけど、絶対意味違うから。
I don't know what he's told you, but you've got it all twisted!
こいつはね、そもそも何が危ないのかやけどするまで気づかない。
This guy doesn't realize he's in danger until he gets burned. Oh my god, too funny.
っていうか、やけどしても、よし、死ななきゃ安いなんて本気で思っちゃう天然ボケなの。
Even then, he'd probably think, well, at least I'm still alive, and whistle all the way home!
ね、そうでしょ、宗十郎。
Isn't that right, Soujirou?
Huh?
He had no idea why she was suddenly shouting, but he nodded anyway just to be safe. Oh my god. The drawing room had become awfully noisy. Alice sat watching the two at a complete loss. Oh dear, I feel I stepped into some kind of romantic comedy. Bloody hell. And so, Soujirou accepted his supervised life in the mansion. Oh my god. Too great. And that he would be living under the same roof as two professional mages. Having experienced firsthand how dangerous that life could get, he was finally at peace with the situation.
まあそういうことなら。
If that's how it's gonna be, then oh well.
Oh my god. Even if he didn't seem like it, he had thought it through in his own way and come to a clear resolution.
それじゃあ、やっと本題に入れるわね。
Get down to business.
監視するとは言ったけど、どうやって宗十郎を監視するのか。
Oh, sorry.
そもそも、あなたを監視する原因になった魔術とは何なのか。そのあたり、ざざっと説明させてもらうわ。
So, I know we said that you'd be under supervision, but we haven't really talked about how we'll be doing that, or that the magecraft that is responsible for enforcing it. Let me start with a brief explanation. Perhaps he was brought up to listen closely to lectures about new information, because Soujirou suddenly looked attentive. Alice, on the other hand, kept her mouth shut in silent defiance.
最初に言っておくと、あんたをここに住まわせる期限は決まってるから。
First off, this time, the time you'll be made to live here has been predetermined.
要はその期限まで誰にも私たちのことを喋らず、また勝手に死ななければ晴れて自由の身ってこと。
In short, until the end of that period. If you don't tell anyone about us or die for some reason, you're free to go.
ね、そうよね、アリス。
Good so far, Alice?
そうね。私たちを怒らせなければ、そういう可能性もあるわね。
Indeed. Provided he refrains from angering us, that is. He has a chance of survival.
よし、いきなり話が食い違ってる。
Yep, this is already off on the wrong foot.
Soujirou's head dropped, like he knew what was coming.
ちょっと黙ってて、アリス。
That's enough, Alice.
あとあんたも黙ってろ。
And you shut up! She scowled at the two of them, already at her wits' end.
話を続けるけど、
As I was saying,
秘密保持のためにあんたを住まわせる場合、二次災害はどうしても避けられない。
having you live with us for the sake of confidentiality means other problems are bound to come up.
同じ家にいる以上、余計に秘密を見せることになるからね。アリスはそれが嫌なんだろうけど。
Is there like some kind of memory thing they can put on it? You'll likely be exposed to even more of our secrets. That's what has Alice so bent out of shape. Now that Aoko mentioned it, Soujirou could see her point. With their target of observation under house arrest, the disclosure of more confidential information was inevitable.
Hold on a second. Doesn't that make my being here a little counterproductive?
大丈夫、問題ないわ。だって最後にはここで暮らした記憶ごと私たちのことを忘れてもらうことにしたから。
It's not a problem. In the end, we'll just have you forget everything about us and about living here at all. I wonder why they don't just do that in the first place. I think I know why. I think because they want to do some experiments on him and find out exactly how he was able to get through the bounded field. And like, because there's got to be something special about him magically.
忘れてもらう?
Have me forget?
そう。公園での一件から丸ごと全部忘れてもらう。
Oh, he's not gonna want to forget though by the end. Right. From the incident in the park onward, you'll forget everything.
ルーンっていう魔術系統があるんだけどね。その中でサクッと記憶を忘れさせるものがあるのよ。
There is a kind of magecraft called runes that has the power to make one forget memories.
非人道的であるのは変わらないけど、ま、命を消す代わりに記憶を消すってことで妥協して。
I don't understand. Like, there's gotta be a reason why they just didn't do this in the first place. It's a bit inhumane, but erasing memory seems a bit better than, well, erasing your life.
青崎、それは
Do I get to say it?
悪いけど反論は却下。
Sorry, no objections.
で、肝心の忘却のルーンなんだけど、
I see.
私もアリスも専門外だから、
I see.
文献を探して習得するのに時間がかかる。
That's the reason. So yeah, in this world, erasing memory is very hard to do. I see. Anyway, an amnesia rune is outside of our field of expertise. So it's gonna take some time for us to find the rune and learn everything about it.
つまりそれが監視の期限ってわけ。
In other words, that's when you get to leave.
私たちが忘却のルーンを見つけるまで命を担保に口を閉じていてもらうわ。
Until we find this rune, we're using your life as collateral so you keep your mouth shut.
アリスはそんなややこしいことはせずに五感全部壊してしまおうなんて言ってるけど。
Alice's idea is that we destroy your five senses and be done with you to avoid the extra effort.
しずきくん、リビングスタチューとか嫌でしょ？
So, Suzuki, what do you say? Fancy becoming a living statue? Soujirou only understood about 80% of what Aoko had explained, and the last part about living statue had gone straight over his head. He had tried his best to visualize what Aoko was going on about, but the only thing he could conjure in his mind was the image of the mascot creature Kitsy.
それは確かに嫌だな。
Yeah, I'd rather not.
Aoko agreed with the bewildered Soujirou. Neither one the wiser to the other's misinterpretation.
とにかく遅くても1ヶ月で忘却のルーンは見つけ出せるだろうし、1回きりの実行ならプラス2ヶ月ぐらいでなんとかなるわ。
Anyway, at most it'll probably take about a month to find the amnesia rune, and another 2 to put it to use.
それまであんたにはここで暮らしてもらうわけだけど、私たちについて無知のまま歩き回られると命の保証はできないのよ。
Until then, that means you'll be living with us. However, we can't just let you wander around without a clue as to what's going on. That's a surefire way to get yourself killed.
そっちもこっちの事情を知らないのは気持ち悪いだろうし。なんで今から簡潔に現代の魔法使いの何たるかを教えてあげる。
I doubt you would be comfortably being left in the dark about us either. So, starting now, I'm gonna fill you in on what it's like to be a modern magician.
それで少しは私たちへの勘違いもなくなるだろうし。
At the very least, it'll hopefully prevent any more misunderstandings. Not that she thought this country bumpkin had any idea of old or new anyway. The thought brought a smug grin to her lips.
洋館のことは後にして、まずは私たちの立場についてね。
Let's leave a tour of the mansion for later, and start with who or what mages are. Nice!
あ、でも1から100まで理解する必要はないから。
And don't worry, you don't need to understand everything right away.
どうせ門外漢なんだし、漢字言ったことだけしっかり噛み締めておきなさい。
You're an outsider after all. So just bite off only what you can chew. Soujirou nodded obediently to Aoko's professional instructions. This was Aoko's way of telling him not to ask questions when he did not understand something. And though Soujirou had taken issue with her statement, he meekly obeyed, knowing better than to object now. Aoko nodded approvingly at his attentiveness and started her lecture. Her long, long lecture.
まず魔術師、魔法使いの話からね。
Yay, lore! We're getting lore drop! Let's start with mages. Magicians, basically.
魔術と魔法の違いは、宗十郎には関わりのない話だからしないけど、それぞれ別種のものだと思ってくれればいいわ。
Really? Interesting. Huh. Since it doesn't concern you, I'll skip the part about how magecraft and magic are not the same. All you need to remember is that they are two different things.
で、魔術師のことだけど、これは絶対条件として隠された存在でなくてはならないの。
Really? I imagine the former is more modern and structured, while the latter is more wild and natural and pure, while the former is more like tamed by mankind and more well understood. That's just my guess from the etymology. Mages, as an absolute rule, must operate in secrecy.
同業者に知られるのは仕方ないとしても、あなたみたいに関わりのない人間に知られるのは罪に当たる。ほとんど死罪クラスのね。
Naturally, mages will find out about other mages, so it's only a crime if an outsider like you finds out about one of us. A crime punishable by death, I should add.
なぜかっていうと、魔術ってのは隠されていないと力が薄れてしまうものだから。
The reason being that the more magecraft is exposed, the weaker it becomes. Wow! That is wow! That is such an Umineko thing. Oh my god.
神秘の語源は閉ざすというギリシャ語だけど、魔術は限られた水着でなければ魔術でなくなってしまう。
I love seeing the little connections, or rather the origins, I should say, of the stuff from Umineko, like in terms of inspiration. That is so cool. You'll often hear us say mystic or mystery, which comes from a Greek word that means to shut the mouth. It follows that magecraft would cease to be if its secrets were revealed.
文明にとって未知なるもの、未開なるものは開かれていないからこそ恐怖に値するのと同じね。
Civilization has always treated the unexplored and the unknown as things to be feared because of their mysterious nature.
知られたら迫害されるから隠す、じゃないの。
But we don't hide ourselves because we fear persecution if we're discovered.
未知で亡くなった魔術師というより魔術ね。
What we fear is the loss of the unknown itself.
明かされた魔術は力を弱めてしまう。だから隠匿するのよ。何より私たちの未来のために。
When our arts are revealed, they become weaker. So by protecting our secrecy, we're also protecting our own future.
魔術の仕組みはよくわからないけど、とにかく自分だけの秘密でないと弱くなるってことか。
I'm not clear on how magecraft works yet. But I think what you're saying is that if you don't keep it a secret, it gets weaker.
じゃあ、青崎も弱くなってるのか？俺が見ちゃったから。
I was thinking that too.
So then, does that mean you got weaker now that I saw you, Azaki?
いいえ、別に。
No, not particularly.
ここからはちょっと込み入った話でね。
Let me explain it in a little more detail.
弱くなるっていうのはあくまで全体。それも随分と未来の話。個人単位では関係のない話よ。
When I say it loses power, I mean magecraft as a whole will get weaker in the future. I'm not talking about individuals.
汝、隠匿すべしって不分律は、この大元の仕組みが形骸化して、いつの間にか絶対のルールになっているだけなの。
The unwritten law that thou shalt conceal thyself was an adage from a bygone age, but at some point it became a law of the highest order.
文明社会の法律と一緒よ。犯罪、不道徳を罰するのは、人間的であろうとする意識の高さと、それとは全く別の全体の仕組みを守るための構造的な結論でしょ。
It's like laws in a civilized society. We like to think that it's human nature to punish crime and immorality, but ultimately a structural solution is needed to maintain order.
犯罪が罰せられるのは、野放しにしたら、せっかく築いた社会がうまく機能しなくなるから。
If crimes were left unpunished, the society we strive so hard to build would collapse.
で、私たちにとって犯罪に当たるのは、神秘の一般化、低俗化であって、不道徳とか殺人とかは、まあ、それぞれの良心次第ってことで、基本的に罪にもならない。
And what we may just consider to be a crime is dissemination and vulgarization of the mystic. Merely immoral things like murder? Well, those are a matter of perspective. And they generally aren't considered outright crimes.
そんなろくでもない連中にルールを敷いたのが魔術協会っていう集まり、組合みたいなものよ。
The good-for-nothing bunch responsible for imposing this law is a group called the Mages Association. Think of them as a labor union.
魔術を普及の神秘とせよというのは、魔術を魔術として永続させるために敷いたルールに過ぎないわ。
The phrase "make eternal the mysticism of magecraft" is nothing more than a rule they created to perpetuate magecraft itself. Huh.
けど、その原則は絶対でさ。
Nevertheless, the rule is absolute.
これを破った者は魔術世界にはいられなくなる。
Those who violate it cease to exist in the magical world.
いえ、実際問題として生きていくのが困難になる。
Or it would be difficult for them to go on living at all.
私たちは私たちの、まあ、魔術師としての命？
For us, that's our, well, our life as mages, I guess.
そういうのを守るために目撃者であるあんたを消さなくちゃいけなかった。
So basically, they were bound by the association. That if it got out, that he saw them, and he knew about mages, then they'd be fucked over by the overseeing group here. In order to protect it, we had no choice but to erase you, the witness to our magecraft.
.そこ、同情とかしなくていいから。私たちの事情を知ったぐらいで、遊園地のことを帳消しにしないでよ。
Don't give me those puppy dog eyes. Just because you know a little about our lives doesn't mean we're not fessing up to what happened at the amusement park.
私たちは私たちの判断であんたを殺そうとしたんだから、誰彼のせいってわけじゃない。
It was our decision to try and kill you. It wasn't anyone else's fault. Damn.
恨むならきちんと私を恨んでちょうだい。
So if you're gonna blame anyone, blame me.
ま、それはともかく。
Okay, back to the topic.
過去、魔術師は職業として成り立ったぐらい社会に認知されていたけど、その魔術自体は墓まで持っていく秘密だった。
Hello, Yankee. Welcome to the stream. In the past, mages were recognized in society enough for it to be considered an occupation. But they took their own magecraft with them to their graves.
それがどう歪んだかは知らないけど、現代ではその職業すら秘密にしなくてはならなくなった。
Interesting. Huh. I don't know what led to things getting so twisted. But even the profession itself has to be kept secret these days.
そこまでしないと、遠い未来、魔術すら消費するだけのものに解体されると、教会は恐れたのよ。
If they didn't go that far, the association feared that in the distant future, magecraft would be used up, and the association would fall apart. What do they mean by used up? Huh. I wonder what that means. Used up.
自然界の仕組みもかつて天上の領域だった宇宙の運営すら私たちは人知で解き明かせるほどになった。
We had reached a point where everything became explainable through human knowledge, from the building blocks of nature to the fabric of the cosmos, once considered to be the realm of the gods.
人の手に余るもの、神秘という未知の領域にとって魔術が最後の砦になると教会の設立者は信じたのかもしれない。
So, God damn it, Dorothy, you said it before me! So it relies on the collective unconscious again, just like Umine. Yes, okay. I see. Huh. Interesting. Basically, it feels like it's a lot to do with what people believe. Is that somehow fuels it. Huh.
それとも魔術なんてもう意味がないって達観したのかもね。
Or maybe they thought in the long run, magecraft would eventually become meaningless.
そんなわけで魔術師はその正体を隠して各々の秘技を伝えていった。他人に教えるわけにはいかないから必然的にその伝承者は子孫になる。
Whatever the reason, mages hid their identities and passed on their individual rituals in secret. And since they couldn't pass it on to outsiders, it was only natural that they taught it to their descendants.
私もアリスもそうやって何代か続いた連中の末なのよ。
Alice and I are both products of generations of lineage.
さっき言った魔術協会っていうのはそんな細々と続いてる連中を束ねる一大組織。魔術師にとって司法の神ってところかしらね。
The Mages Association I mentioned earlier is a vast organization that governs those magecraft wielders still dedicated to their field. Mages think of them as their ruling body.
教会もいろんな派閥に分かれるんだけど、大抵の魔術師はロンドンの魔術協会に属している。汝隠匿すべしっていうのも教会の三大原則の一つよ。
The association is actually made of a bunch of factions, and the vast majority of mages are affected with the London chapter. The law to conceal ourselves is one of their three main principles.
魔術師が一般人に秘密を漏らすと、教会から罰が下される仕組みになっている。
If a mage reveals their secrets to a civilian, the association is quick to make an example of them. Damn.
そんな罰なんかなくても、自分と血族が伝えた魔術のために目撃者は消さないといけないんだけど。
But even if the mage doesn't get punished, the witness should still be eliminated to protect the mage and their family's magecraft. And that was the end of the first part of the lecture. Aoko paused for a moment. And that Soujirou was doing his best to process the information.
次行くけどいい？
Ready to move on?
いいけど、その前に確認したい。
Sure, but let me see if I understand so far.
魔術師が正体を隠すのは自分のためじゃなく魔術のためだったけど、最近では自分の正体を隠すことの方が重要になっている。
Mages used to hide their identities not for their own sake, but for the sake of magecraft. Now they're more concerned with hiding themselves.
そしてその決まりを破ると教会というところからお咎めが来る。
And if you break the rules, you'll be punished by a place called the Association.
つまり青崎たちもその教会に入っているのか？
Does that mean you two are members of the Association?
いいえ、私たちはフリーよ。一応教会とつながりはあるけどね。
Nope, we're freelance. Though we walk in similar circles.
単純に教会は最大勢力ってだけ。連中は頼まれもしないのに魔術世界全体の秩序を守ってるの。
They're simply the largest organized group. Even though no one asked them to, they've taken it upon themselves to police the world of magecraft. Then that must mean they have the power to do so. Damn.
だから私たちが何であれ、彼らとの関わりがないにしても、魔術師としての決まりを破ったら罰しに来るわ。
The power to police people as strong as Alice. If even Alice respects those rules so much, someone as strong as her, that just goes to show how strong the mages in the association are. Huh. So, no matter how unaffiliated we are as mages, if we break the rules, we'll get punished anyway.
わかった。大体飲み込めた。
Okay. I think I get the gist of it.
よしよし。そうやって自分に必要な部分だけ手に入れなさい。
It's alright. Just focus on the parts important to you.
じゃ、次は魔術について。と言っても、私自身語れるほど学んでいないんだけどね。
Next is magecraft. Though I've barely learned enough to talk about it myself. I wonder if Alice is using this as kind of like a test of sorts for Aoko. Like to see how much she's learned.
Huh?
ごめん、こっちの話だから忘れて。
Sorry. Forget I said that.
さっきも言ったけど、現代において魔術は無意味なものになりつつある。
I touched on this already, but these days magecraft is losing its meaning.
ライターのない大昔なら火を起こせればそれは魔術として成り立つわ。けど今は何かと便利でしょ。あなたならよくわかると思うけど。
If you created a fire a long time ago when there were no lighters, that was enough to count as a mystic feat. But nowadays, life is awfully convenient, right? You of all people can appreciate that. Soujirou nodded with a glum look on his face. He had been made painfully aware of such conveniences. Difficult tasks that would occupy an entire day of work in the mountains could be performed easily here. For him, having been brought up in the mountains without electricity or running water, city life was by definition magic. So this is so cool from his perspective. He only wished it would not be such backbreaking work to adapt to said conveniences.
Oh.
Oh.
でも道具を使わずに火を起こせるのは神様の仕事だと思うけど。
I do think that creating fire without tools should be a god's job, though.
そのために積み重ねた手間は火炎放射器を手に入れるより面倒だとしても。
Even though we worked out how to do it more efficiently with a flamethrower? Soujirou wasn't sure how to answer Aoko. It would have been easy for him to ask Aoko how much accumulated effort she thought it had taken humans to imitate those gods. But he knew it would come across as an insult.
Hmm. さっきのを見る限り、魔術ってのは何でもできると思ったけど、それは誤解なのか。
From what I just saw, I was under the impression that magecraft could do anything. But maybe I misunderstood?
He glanced at the glass bottle on the table. Mentally, he sighed in relief. He still had not come to terms with the fact that he had been trapped inside that tiny thing. However,
あら、それこそ誤解よ。万能じゃなければ誰が魔術なんて学ぶと思ってるの？
ooh, that's a misunderstanding, all right. If Maytrap wasn't all powerful, why would anyone bother to learn it? Aoko puffed out her chest as she chided him.
手間暇かかるけど、魔術にできないことはないわ。
Oh, really? Interesting. It might take some time to do, but there's nothing Magecraft can't do. Bold claim.
中にはできていないけどできているように見せるみたいな何らかのイカサマはあるけどね。
Granted, some users are able to trick you into thinking something's possible when it really isn't.
この世界に生まれた以上、その許容範囲でできないことなんてないの。そこで魔法が出てくるんだけど、それはまた改めて。
But since we were born into this world, there's nothing we can't do within its limits. Besides true magic, of course. But we'll get into that some other time. Now, I remember true magic, she said, was basically, with regular magecraft, they can bring things out from the real world. They can use things that exist in the real world. But true magic is taking stuff from their imaginations that doesn't exist in the real world.
「私が言いたかったのは、魔術は奇跡を起こしているのではなくて、その過程が奇跡だってこと。
What I'm trying to say is that magecraft doesn't create miracles. It's only the process that's miraculous.
結果が奇跡になるのは魔法の方なの。
To produce a real miracle, you need true magic.
偉大な魔術師っていうのは、個人の魔術だけで旅客機飛ばしたりする人のこと。
A great mage is someone who can fly a passenger ship with only their own magecraft.
対して偉大な魔法使いっていうのは、今不可能なことを可能にする人のことよ。
Meanwhile, a magician deals in making the impossible possible. Rah rah, fight the power.
「そういった意味じゃ、私たちは最後の魔法使いになるかもしれないけどね。
Which is why we might just turn out to be the last magicians. Really?
脱線してるわよ、青子。
Huh. Focus, Aoko. Alice had been quietly listening until she muttered her rebuke. Ooh. Huh. As if Aoko had crossed the line. So they're doing some shady ass stuff. They're doing some shady ass shit. I see. They're like doing crazy experiments that the association doesn't approve of. Ooh.
そこまで教える必要はないでしょう。
He doesn't need to know that.
しずきくんに教えるべきことは、私たちと暮らす上で危険になることだけじゃなかった。
Shouldn't we be educating Suzuki on the dangers of living with us?
悪かったわ。ちょい口滑らせた。
Ooh, they're doing some illegal magic. Sorry, you're right. Slip of the tongue.
ともかく魔術師っていうのは暇さえあれば魔術の実験をしてる連中で、自分の家系が伝えてきた秘技を守るためなら鬼でも悪魔にでもなる。
Anyway, mages spend every waking moment experimenting in magecraft and become doubles in a heartbeat in order to protect their magecraft, by which I mean their family secrets.
必然そのアジト工房って言うんだけど、工房も魔術的な機構が積み重なって要塞みたいになっちゃうのよ。
Their lairs, which we call workshops, are like fortresses packed with all kinds of magical mechanisms.
秘技を守るために入ってきた相手を問答無用で叩きのめす仕掛けとか。
Like traps that kill intruders before they even know what hit them. It's all to protect our secrets.
この洋館もそういった工房と同じなの。
This mansion is no different.
不用心に歩き回ってさっきみたいなことになったら私でも助けてあげられないから、暗闇には気をつけなさい。気がついたら鏡の中にいるとか本気であるから。
You might even find yourself stuck inside a mirror. Seriously, that can actually happen. I'm not kidding. Soujirou so hoped they would provide him a general idea of what to watch out for, but he passed, knowing it was unlikely to get a straight answer.
枝葉から入っちゃったけど、要は私たちのプライベートに関わるなってこと。
That was a lot to take in one go. But my point is, keep your nose out of where it doesn't belong.
いくら最後には記憶を消すって言っても、それを見られた段階で消すしかないものもあるから。
Even though we're gonna erase your memory in the end, there are still things we'd have to kill you for seeing.
なるほど。この中にもルールがあることはよくわかった。他に注意すべきことは。
Got it. The mansion has rules to I have to follow. I understand. Is there anything else I should...
His eyes wandered as he trailed off mid-sentence, pondering. He understood that the mansion was more dangerous than outside, and that magecraft needed to stay a secret. But the explanation seemed to contradict his current problem. For starters, how did he manage to witness something that they took such pains to keep hidden? Oh, he figured it out!
すまない。話の腰を折るんだけど、いいかな。
I'm sorry, it just occurred to me.
魔術師は教会という組織で結ばれてるんだろ。なら、どうして青崎はあんな人形に襲われたんだ？
Mages are all united under the organization called the Association, right? If that's the case, why were you attacked by that puppet, Aozaki?
あれの持ち主が魔術師なら、君たちは味方同士で争っていることになる。何か説明が不足していないか？
If its master was a mage, wouldn't that mean that you were fighting an ally? Am I missing something here?
それは最後にしようと思ってたのよ。
I was saving that for last.
普通はここまでの話だけで眉唾者っていうか笑い飛ばすっていうか。
I mean, why would he say that at this point? Like, seriously, he's seen all that magic can do. Why would he say that, Aoko? Like, seriously. Normally, this would be the point in the story where you'd say, made it up or laugh it all off.
いくら経験済みだからって魔術なんてもんをあっさり受け入れるなんてできないっていうか。
Even if you've experienced it, the existence of magecraft shouldn't be something you accept so easily. Aoko scratched her head as though troubled by how Soujirou could take every word at face value. Across from her, Alice's face betrayed no expression, but she shared the same opinion.
おかしいのかそれ。
Is that so weird?
おかしいわよ。そもそもあんたは第一ステップから変だった。
It's mega weird. In fact, you've been weird from the get-go. Yeah, seriously. They gotta find out what's going on with him. What's his dealio?
普通は驚いたり怖がったり無視したりするものなのに、どうして魔法使いだなんて言った私を信じたの？
A normal person would be shocked, scared, unwilling to accept her existence. Why do you of all people believe me when I say I'm a magician? In retrospect, this question should have been posed at the House of Mirrors. Yeah, seriously.
I mean,
Like, given all that he's seen, he'd be stupid not to believe. Back then, though Soujirou was surprised by seeing the phenomenon of mage trap for the first time, he showed no surprise or discomfort toward Aoko, the mage wielding it, because he has a crush on her. Feeling the probing stares of the two mages, made Soujirou feel uneasy. From where he was standing, their suspicion was suspicious in and of itself.
なんでも何もない。青崎、山だよね。あるものはあるのが当たり前なんだよ。
there's no reason at all, really. Up in the mountains, people just accept things as they are.
理由をつけられるだけの知識がなかったからにしても、実際に見たものを信じないなんてことはないんだ。
We don't deny something we see in front of us, just as we don't have the knowledge to explain it.
それに君も言ったろ。あなたにとっては魔法もライターも同じものなんだろうって。
You said it yourself. Lighters and magic might as well be the same thing, right?
Though they weren't really the same to him anymore, he added quietly before shutting up. What he said about those innocent days in the mountains had come from the heart. And the words resonated with not only Aoko Azaki, but also Alice Kwanji. It was something everyone should have. Principles to stand by. Indeed, to this boy, those words were an unshakable truth.
あるものはあるか。
Some things are the way they are. I see what you're saying. This is this and that is that. She was impressed, if only slightly. If this boy, no matter how much of an outlier he was, could accept the things around him, he would be able to get through this just fine.
そうね。Soujirouはそうなのよね。
That's a good way of explaining it, Soujirou. My god, like, I imagine every time she calls him Soujirou, like, his heart is like a...
簡単に信じてもらえることが信じられないなんて私たちの方がどうかしてたわ。
I guess the fault's with us for not believing you sincerely. Much like when Aoko met Soujirou for the first time. In that classroom on his first day, Soujirou took everything that was happening in stride. The memory brought a bitter smile to Aoko's face.
じゃ、気を取り直してっと。
Okay, you guys. I don't know how long there's left in this chapter, but I do have to stop for now. I really am digging this so far. I am really, 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 really hyped. Seriously, thank you all so much for joining me. I love this. I really, really love it. And I can't wait to. In 2 days, we'll get right back to it. Place another bookmark. So yeah, that's why I said that earlier, that like which one to do next, either Tsukihime or Fate remake, either of those two remakes. Yeah, I'm really digging it. I love the vibe. Half an hour, yeah, we'll continue next time. So, thank you. Yeah, next time we'll also have more time as well. Yeah. Until next time, I will say, so long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, good night. You're all the sweetest of hearts.